This is the Moto G5 Plus, Lenovo's latest attempt at a well-balanced, while still extremely affordable, brand-name smartphone option. Compared to last year's Moto G4, we're looking at an overhauled, much more substantial-feeling design, performance and storage upgrades, and a new dual-pixel camera, like Samsung uses on its own flagship models. Does all that, combined with a budget-friendly price tag, make the Moto G5 Plus a steal? I'm Stephen Shank with PhoneArena, looking into that right now with my Moto G5 Plus review.
If there was one word that best described last year's Moto G4 phones, it would be easy. They were affordable to buy, straightforward to use, and were all sorts of willing to work just fine on whatever mobile carrier you chose. Like we said, easy. Now with the new Moto G5 Plus, Lenovo's streamlining things even further. For starters, we're only seeing this one Plus model in the States, not a regular G5 as well. And while some shoppers will lament the lack of choice, having a single Moto G5 handset really does simplify sales and promotion. You still have some decisions to make, and we'll get to those just a little later on, but no matter which way you go, you're looking at a handset that tastefully reinvents the look of Motorola's mid-range offerings with some really premium-feeling materials. We liked the G4 lineup, but those phones felt a bit cheap with their snap-on plastic back panels. This year, with the G5 Plus, we're looking at a phone that instead blends glass, chromed-out plastic, and a nice amount of actual metal to give us a handset that looks and feels right up there at the top of the mid-range spectrum. The move from a linear camera stripe to a new circular puck-style camera also helps reinforce the idea that we're looking at a whole new chapter in the Moto G design story. But while Lenovo may have felt empowered to embrace this attractive new look, we're still dealing with a phone that makes some of the same smart decisions we're familiar with from past G models in terms of balancing price and performance concerns. While both of last year's G4 phones were on the larger side with 5.5-inch screens, we're reining that in for the G5 Plus, and despite that Plus moniker, this handset has a pocket-friendly 5.2-inch display. The 1080 by 1920 resolution is just what we'd hope to see on a screen this size, and it looks very sharp here. Color accuracy is decent, with only some minor hiccups, and a software configurable vibrant mode can lend an extra boost of dazzling saturation. Screen brightness is also really good, though you're going to have to leave it in the phone's auto mode for access to its full range of output. With the new G5 Plus, Lenovo upgrades from the Snapdragon 617s of the G4s to a 625. Now, this is still an older chip, sure, but it's also one that's been at the heart of some of our favorite mid-rangers over the course of the past year, phones like the Moto Z Play, giving handsets good performance while also keeping power needs low. It's built on a more modern 14nm process than those 617 chips, and the added performance really shows compared to the G4s. We also see Lenovo drop the 16GB storage option for this model, a sign of the changing expectations users have for mid-rangers. Instead, you can choose a 32GB Moto G5 Plus that's also equipped with 2GB of RAM, or a 64GB model that similarly doubles RAM to 4GB. That 64/4 option is the Moto G5 Plus you see here, the one we reviewed, and if you've got the cash, we highly suggest going in this direction. That will only run you just about $300 compared to $230 for the 32GB edition. And while we're talking about money, either of these variants are also available as an Amazon exclusive for Prime members that includes lock screen ads, but slashes prices at the same time, from $230 and $300 for 32 and 64 gigs to just $185 and $240 respectively. No matter how you buy the Moto G5 Plus, you won't have an issue operating it on the network of your choice. The unlocked handset supports all the big 4 US carriers, freeing you to choose your handset independently of service. Once you decide on one, your SIM goes in a new hybrid pop-out tray shared with an optional micro SD card. We tried the handset out on T-Mobile and found voice quality very solid. No complaints there. Whether you're listening to calls or viewing media, all the Moto G5 Plus's audio comes out of the earpiece above the screen, which doubles as the phone's main speaker. Now, stereo would have been nice, but even a mono front-facer is a step in the right direction. The unit's nice and loud, and while it could use better bass reproduction, it's perfectly suitable for most uses. On the other side of the screen, we've got the Moto G5 Plus's Fingerprint Scanner, and beyond just authenticating you, this year it picks up a few very nice new tricks. If you so choose, you can disable the on-screen virtual Android navigation buttons and instead use the scanner as a gesture-driven capacitive trackpad. That way, you tap once for home, swipe to the left for back, or swipe right for recent apps. And you can even swap the direction of those last two if you so choose. While we've balked at similar schemes in the past, this one works really well, and we're already wishing more phones offered the same thing. The G5 Plus's main camera is a 12-megapixel dual-pixel sensor, not unlike what we saw on the Galaxy S7 and the new S8. Now that sounds good, and it is, but you should also keep your expectations realistic for a mid-ranger like this. While we saw a lot of potential in the shots the G5 Plus managed to grab, and when things worked well, they worked really well, we also ran into more than a few poorly focused pics, suggesting to us that there's still some software tweaking needed. Video recording offers some decent options for a mid-ranger, including filming up to 4K and some nice slow-mo modes, but we weren't particularly wowed by any of the camera's output, and found footage shot with some of the higher-end recording options to be a little jerky at times. In the end, it was all decent, but felt like it overshot a bit. Finally, there's battery life, and here Lenovo nails it. By combining a Snapdragon 625 with a good-sized 3000 mAh battery, the Moto G5 Plus can enjoy over 10 hours of continuous screen-on time. Go easy on your phone, and multi-day use on a single charge is very much possible. Recharging is nice and quick too, going from 0 to full in well under 2 hours.
Lenovo's clearly learned a lot since last year's G4 phones, and while the Moto G5 Plus makes a misstep here and there, it's still a really well put together, very satisfying mid-range option. Even the camera, which let us down a little bit, works pretty well most of the time, and our expectations were just a little high. Really though, it's the small touches with this phone, like how the Fingerprint Scanner works as a swipe gesture interface to help elevate it above the rest of its mid-range competition. And that's available as an ad-supported model, even if it's one only available to Amazon Prime users, is still a choice we very much like to have. Thanks for watching. I'm Steven Shank with PhoneArena, and if you enjoyed this review, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next one.